Welcome. Cool. All right. So I made this secret channel. I don't know if I'm going to tell anyone about it. It's got a completely different name from my normal name on my normal channel, but I wanted a channel where I could just ramble about literally whatever I want to talk about, because I might be a freak and I talk to myself a lot more than a human being probably should. But, some things I just want to talk about, and no one I know is particularly interested in listening, which sounds sad, but it's not really that bad. I mean, do you want to listen to your friends talk about stuff you couldn't care less about? No. But anyways, I plan for this to be super long. I don't know how long it's going to be. Video where I just completely talk about my entire experience. My microphone is falling. My entire experience with Danganronpa, the series, the video game series, the anime, literally everything, and I cannot get this mic situated. Okay, hopefully it stops moving now. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about how I got into the series, what I thought about each game, the anime, and everything. It's not really analytical, per se. I'm vaguely interested in analytical content, but at the same time, I mostly just want to talk about my experience. And I think I'll even have some videos where I talk about why I think just personal experience is one of, if not the most important aspect in how you view art or entertainment or whatever it may be. And I guess, in a way, the overrated nature of objectivity and analysis in entertainment media, how it defeats the purpose. That's another video. But Danganronpa. So, Danganronpa is my favorite video game series. By far. I think I would say by far. I think the only one that comes close is probably Persona, but I've only played half the Persona games like everyone else, right? With Danganronpa. So, when did I play? When's the first time I played Danganronpa? Because that was not actually my first experience, but I actually first played the games in 2017 when the Danganronpa 1-2 Reload came out on PS4. And I'm actually gonna talk about before that, leading up to it. So I got into anime, just watching anime around, I think 2015. I think it was the summer of 2015 I started watching like Naruto, right? Naruto and Dragon Ball. And then I just devolved into a complete degenerate from there. But one of the first few anime I watched was Danganronpa, the animation. That came out in, I want to say 2013, could be wrong about that. But the anime that was about 11 or 12 episodes and turned the 40-hour game into 4 hours. So of course, once I went and actually played the game, I would realize that this adaptation isn't super in depth now, is it? But I guess back then I was in high school at the time. I think I was probably a junior or senior, and I was just on my phone late at night, and I was on Kiss Anime, rest in peace Kiss Anime. And I think I was scrolling through, it was either psychological or horror anime, that genre tag. I don't know which one it was. And then I came across Danganronpa, and it was just something I just clicked on it because at that time, I gave everything a chance when I watched anime. I was so into the idea of just watching as much anime as possible. So I saw Danganronpa. I was like, that's a weird title, right? And I just read the synopsis, probably thought it was cool. I don't remember exactly. I started watching, and I just remember episode 1. I remember I really liked Sayaka. Why did I like Sayaka? Well, it was literally just because she was cute. I was like, wow, I like that girl. I think she's going to be my favorite. It's just me being, petty and liking her because she's cute, right? And I do like musicians. My main channel is actually a music channel. And so episode 1, I'm pretty sure this happened in episode 1. By the way, it's spoilers for the entirety of Danganronpa. I'm just going to talk about my experience, right? But anyways, ripped, got yeeted, got deaded in the first episode. I was like, all right. So that's the type of show this is. And so I got hyped. You think I'd be upset because, I claimed this character, based off of appearances to just be my favorite character already. And she just, like, died at the it was either at the very end of the first episode or the very beginning of the second. I can't really remember. But, I was instantly hooked. I liked the aesthetic. I loved the premise. That was the main reasoning. And I guess a side note, Danganronpa's anime is actually one of the first few shows that I remember that pushed me to stop watching dubs, because at the time I couldn't really like stand the idea of just watching everything subbed, because I guess I was lazy and didn't want to read. But I actually really didn't like the voice acting. Not to diss them, but I think the dub just doesn't fit aesthetically with the characters. I was like, man, I do not like this dub, so I just switched over immediately. And that was one of the very first times I ever said that. I think the other time that I did that was Clanad. I think that was one of the shows where I just like, you know what? I think this voice acting is just not very good. I'm just gonna switch to sub. But that's a aside the fact. So when I watched the anime, I just loved it. I really enjoyed the anime. I remember I would get home from school or whatever, and I was just like, you know what, man? Let's watch some Danganronpa tonight as I lay in bed with the lights off, because I'm someone that loves to like set the mood when I'm consuming something. If it's like a show or a game that I think should be consumed in like a darker atmosphere, with the lights off at nighttime and stuff, I'll do that. Like I enjoy that sort of immersion. So anyways, having just seen the anime, I really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people that just watch the anime first, they think it's like really solid, or they think it's really fun, and they don't realize how much better the games really are, even though everyone says they are. But as I watched it, I loved it. At a certain point, I would have considered it like top 10, maybe top 20, but that was when I hadn't really seen a lot. So, I loved it. I love that type of show. I love survival-esque stuff and killing game sort of stuff like that. Probably just because I'm edgy. But anyways, so I watched the anime. I loved it. And then a year passes. So I think it's probably it's early 2017. It's very early 2017. I hadn't really thought about it. Okay, actually, no, I completely forgot. I have to go back to 2016. You know what's in 2016? The Danganronpa 3 anime. The stupidest thing I ever did was watch both the Danganronpa 3 anime, the Future Arc and Despair Arc. I watched both of them without having played Danganronpa 2. Or I hadn't played any of the games. I don't know why I did this. I guess I just didn't see anyone explicitly saying. I didn't go out of my way to see if I could watch it. I watched it. It made no sense to me. And I remember giving it like bad scores on my anime list. I think I gave the Future Arc a 5 out of 10. And I think I gave the Despair Arc like a 7 out of 10 or a 6. I was just mad. Or I wasn't even mad. I think I was just like, what is this? I didn't understand a single thing. And it's like, of course I did understand. I regret watching that back when it came out. I remember 2016 is when I actually started watching anime seasonally, like as it came out. And I probably was just excited, because I loved the original anime. So anyways, so keep that in mind. I eventually did rewatch the anime after, and I'll talk about that once I get there. But fast forward to early 2017. So GameStop. I need to talk about GameStop because I've had a GameStop account probably like half of my lifespan. And I never knew the email and password to it, or I never knew the password. Apparently, I think I knew the email because I had to, recover my password. And I completely neglected it and all the points that I had saved up because I just had, for some reason, my brain dropped to a negative thought process. I don't know what that means. I just came up with that, and it doesn't sound right. My brain just dropped dead, apparently, and I just never checked it. I never thought to just, press the forgot my password button. So I was at GameStop, I think in a mall nearby. I think my friend might have been there. And the lady at the counter said, you have like a ton of points saved up, right? You should probably like spend those or something. And I was like, you know what? I don't even know how to get on my GameStop account. I guess I was just dumb. And so I kind of remembered that. And not too long later, I got an email from GameStop. And GameStop doesn't like send me emails super often, apparently. I think it went to like my primary email, so I actually got a notification for it. And I was just like, I just remembered what she said. She said that I have a ton of points saved up. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try seeing if I can log into it. And so I did. I forgot my password or whatever. I reset my password. I got on it. And she was right. I had like a stupid amount of points. And so I was like, you know what? I should do something with these points. Keep in mind, I was in high school and I had like no money. I had like very little money at the time. So, yeah. So I was like looking for like some sort of coupon I could use, or, if I could use those points towards some sort of discount or something. And I could. I think I ended up getting like a $25 off, something like that. Because I was just under the amount I needed for like 50, or just getting a full free game or something like that. But anyway, so I saw that and I was like, well, I don't know what I want. I think at this point I had kind of fallen out of video games a little bit. I didn't really play as many games as I wanted. I don't know. I guess I kind of just didn't feel like any video games resonated with me anymore. And so I remember I was looking on GameStop's website, and I was like, what can I use these points for? What's coming out? And I look, and I think literally one of the very first things that was on there was Danganronpa 1-2 Reload coming to PS4, like, February? It was either February or March, and I was like, bro, that's in like 2 weeks. I love the anime, and everyone said the games were better. I don't even hardly remember what happened in the anime, honestly, because it was so lacking in detail. So I just got super excited, and it just hit me. It clicked with me. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to get this. So I waited like 2 weeks. I remember I remember when it came out, I had a reminder set on my phone to go buy it. And I remember, I was about to leave the house. I told my mom I'm gonna go to GameStop. She was like, "Well, you want me to drive you there?" I don't know why she offered, but I couldn't have driven myself, but I took her up on it. I was like, "All right, sure, drive me there." And so I went in, found it on the shelf at GameStop. Used the discount thing. And I guess another funny thing that happened there was he asked the guy at the counter. There's two guys. I was the only person in there besides the GameStop employees, and he said, you want to pre-order anything? We got Persona 5 coming out. And then the dude to his right was like, Persona 5, ooh, something like that. And so I didn't know what Persona was. I just heard of Persona. Little did I know Persona 5 would literally become my favorite JRPG and my second favorite game of all time. I would end up playing it in a few months later, but I thought that was a cool little thing. So I was like, you know what, I'll pass for now. Somehow I managed to make myself say no, which I'm usually pretty terrible at. But I walked out of there with Danganronpa 1-2 Reload. And I guess I also forgot to say this. So I went back to the car. My mom drove me back. And I remember that I had randomly asked my mom, when it came out I think Danganronpa 2 came out on Steam like a while, like months before or something, like several months before, and I randomly asked my mom if she would buy this game for me, and she just said no. And then I think I, for some reason, asked again, and she said, "What's it about?" And I explained it in the worst way possible that made it seem like a mentally deranged person made the game, which, Kadaka may very well be mentally deranged. and she got mad. She got mad. She was like, "Oh my goodness, that's so wrong. How could it's like it was about kids killing each other, whatever, right?" And she said it sounded like so wrong, and it's like I felt so bad because I just so poorly explained this series premise. And it's like it's so weird though because my mom loves edgy stuff like that. She watches plenty of edgy shows. You know, sometimes I'll walk by and she's like downstairs watching some movie that has like horrific screaming in it, like someone's begging for their life or something, right? So I explained it so horribly that I think she got offended. So I mean I didn't even tell her what game I bought. I didn't tell her what game I bought or whatever. I don't think it would have mattered anyways. I'd already bought it. So anyways, I went back home. I think I waited till nighttime because I just like doing that. I like doing everything at nighttime. I'm a night owl. I feel more productive at night. I say productive like playing a video game is productive, but you know what I mean. So I started playing the game, and just by the end of the prologue, I was already hooked. I think back at that, one of the most, in my opinion, iconic moments of Danganronpa is at the very, very end of the prologue when they're in the gymnasium and Monokuma announces what the killing game is. Or, you know, he announces the rules, like they're trapped in here, and they have to kill someone and get away with it. If they want to get out, and it pans out and it shows every character like looking at each other nervously, and every character's got their own like special reaction, and it just gave me the chills. I think that's such an amazing, iconic scene from Danganronpa. It really does a phenomenal job at setting the tone for what the game is really like, and I really think Danganronpa 1 is very special in the series. I kind of hate when people trash on the game in comparison to the others, but I'll get there when I get there. So I love that scene, where it pans out and it shows everyone nervously looking at each other in the gymnasium, and then it goes into the first chapter. So I'm already excited. I'm already hooked. And I can't remember if I stopped right there and picked it up the next day, but that doesn't really matter. So as I played, I was just falling in love. I was literally playing one chapter every night. And if you know Danganronpa, one chapter is like, oh man, it can range from like, I feel like it's like 6 to 8 or 9 hours, right? It's somewhere in there. I think the first game is the shortest, not by that much, but it felt shorter. I think V3 is like a 50-hour game, while the original is like a 40-hour game, something like that. And so I played a chapter a night, and I would always wait till nighttime, play the entire thing in one sitting, as if it was the most captivating, enthralling, I don't know, captivating thing I had ever witnessed in my life. It sounds weird saying that about a video game, but it really got me that excited. It got me so excited to where when I went to sleep, almost every night almost every night of playing a Danganronpa game, in my sleep, I would have like really anxiety-induced dreams where I feel like I'm in a class trial and I like can't figure out what's happening, or I just feel stupid or something, and like I can feel this anxious feeling in my chest, and it's a really weird feeling because part of me is like, you know, this game actually negatively affects my sleep, but at the same time, that just means that I love the game that much and that I think about it that much. So how old was I? And I played it in 2017. That's actually the year I graduated, so I was 18 at the time, I think. But anyways, so it just like made me feel a certain type of way. I never would have thought that I would be a person that could get into visual novels. I never had a negative stigma. Well, I don't think I had a negative stigma about visual novels. I wasn't, I think a lot of people hear the term visual novel and they instantly don't want to play it. They don't want to touch it because it sounds like just boring reading. But Danganronpa is the best visual novel you could play, I think, for a person that's not into visual novels. I mean, it's like half visual. It's okay. No, it's mostly visual novel, but it really does have some like really fun gameplay aspects, I think. But anyways, let's like start from the beginning. So chapter 1. Yeah, this is how deep I'm gonna get into this. It's gonna be a long video. Chapter 1. I love what they built up between Naegi and Saika, and I think overall, even though the murder itself was pretty stupidly obvious that she was writing Leon on the wall, right? I had remembered that from the anime. I'd forgotten just about everything from the anime except for like very few key points, and I did remember that 11037 was just Leon upside down, right? But I think I'd forgotten who Leon was. I think I'd forgotten which one Leon was. I think I mistook Yasuhiro for Leon, and when you can choose who it is, I think I was like wanting to pick him. I was like, oh wait, that's not even Leon. I don't know. I guess it took me a while to learn the names, but anyways, I really liked what they built up between Naegi and Saika. I kind of think Saika's a little bit of an underrated character. I've never seen anyone that said they loved her character. Every time I've seen someone put her on a tier list, it was almost always like she was almost always in the middle, if not lower. At most, people would put her like right above middle, like so just barely above average, if even that. Most people I don't think really do that, but I always really liked her. I kind of just liked what she represented as the very first victim, while also, I guess, betraying the trust of others in the sense that she was actually going to betray everyone by killing Leon, but that didn't go according to plan. So I think really just sets the tone well for the first game. And I guess Naegi is the protagonist. I like him. I like Naegi. I think he's cool. I think he's okay. He's not my least favorite protagonist, and he's also not my favorite protagonist. But I think he's decent. He definitely does, I guess, flex his averageness a little bit too hard, especially at the beginning. At the beginning, they really hammer home just how boring and average and normal he is. But I guess in the sense that he is the ultimate lucky student, it's really interesting when you compare him to, Nagito from Danganronpa 2, right? But we'll get into that. So anyways, chapter 1, even though the actual, it wasn't hard to tell who it was because it's just Leon upside down, it was still a fun chapter, and I think it's a solid introduction to the series for the most part. I can't imagine some people playing the first chapter, seeing how blatantly obvious it is that it's Leon, just by his name being written down, and just feeling like the game is treating them like they're dumb. But I don't think most people feel that way. Anyways, and then that's also a pretty iconic shot of her just in the bathroom or whatever, with a knife in her, blood coming out. Was a knife in her? I actually don't remember. I'd have to look at the picture again. I call it iconic, but then I forget that. But anyways, moving on. Chapter 2. I feel like there's not too much for me to just specifically point out about Chapter 2, other than I'd say it's probably my second favorite. It's probably my middle favorite second chapter of the 3 main games. I think a lot of people really loved the Chihiro stuff. I can see why. Personally, I like Chihiro, but Chihiro's not one of my favorites. I don't ever want to call characters overrated, because I think characters specifically more than anything else in video games or anime or whatever are some of the most like subjective and like how you determine like who's your favorite. Because I mean, characters are, I think, just a much more personal thing. Like when I look at my favorite characters in anime or video games, which I think I will make a video about. I really want to do that. I see a lot of like consistency and similarities between the characters that I love. So I definitely think it's like characters that just speak in a way or act in a way, behave in a way, whatever, that resonates with me. And so I can understand Chihiro resonating with a lot of other people, surprisingly, even after dying in the second chapter, right? So I do like Chihiro. Not one of my favorite characters. I'd say if I were ranking all the DR1 characters, I'd probably put Chihiro in the upper half. Probably, I think I'd definitely put Chihiro in the upper half. I think Chihiro is an interesting, really cool character, right? And then on the flip side, you have Mondo, and I really don't like Mondo. That's actually an archetype I really, really don't like. There are very few character archetypes that I don't like, and Mondo's one of them. I'm really not a fan of the usually like gang leader, gang member type of personality, you know, hunches over when they walk, talks like a Japanese gangster, and then has some backstory about how something really crazy happened. And it's like I can't relate in the slightest, and I don't particularly admire the lifestyle. I don't find anything particularly interesting about it. I don't think anything about those characters really speak to me. I'm not saying Mondo was a bad character, because honestly I don't think Danganronpa has a ton of bad characters. There's a few DR1 characters I'd say might be bad. I'd say Hifumi's bad. We'll get to Hifumi. I'll get to Hifumi, don't worry. I'll get to Hifumi. Anyways, so Mondo's just not my type of character. I can see why someone else might like him, but personally, that's not an archetype I'm into. And I feel that way a lot about really just about any other character that fits that style. I'm really not into it. Oh, by the way, I haven't even mentioned the executions yet. I guess Leon's execution. Leon's execution is one of the most iconic parts of the entire series. If not, I feel like that's the moment where everyone just like loses their mind. I remember watching that in the anime, and I was like blown away. I was like, what did I just watch? What is this show? And I think that was one of the things that really got me hooked. I think at first I felt bad. I felt guilty about watching it. I think that's a mindset. I used to feel guilty about watching super edgy stuff, but I think I got over that mindset pretty quickly after watching more anime. I think that really happened with Future Diary. I remember like locking my door for some reason or whatever while watching Future Diary, but that's aside the point. Now I just lock my door 24/7, right? Anyway, so, and then Mondo, his execution was like, he got turned into butter, which was funny. But one of the most memorable parts of that chapter is really Byakuya. I think that's when Byakuya that's kind of when he's the most interesting. I don't mean that in a bad way, because Byakuya is one of my favorite characters in DR1. I'd say Byakuya is probably top 3 DR1 character for me. I really like him. I really do. Yes, he's a jerk or whatever. I don't think a character being a jerk, you know, makes them a bad character, right? Or makes them an unenjoyable character, uninteresting. I think Byakuya is a super interesting character, but and he'll be brought up a lot more. But it's really interesting how he, you know, takes this sort of interest in Naegi and sort of guides him around in the second chapter. And the whole time, he was the one that just messed with Chihiro's body and made the crime scene much more convoluted than it originally was. And that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy that someone would just do something like that. But I think it's really consistent with his character. So Byakuya is, I think, is a really solid character. He really starts to prove how interesting he can be in chapter 2. But chapter 2 is usually my least favorite chapter, one of my least favorite chapters from each game. That's just always kind of how it is. Chapter 2 is always just, it's, I guess I would say it's laying down the rules and the expectations for how the killing game is going to go. It's the most normal chapter of each game, I would say. So yeah, chapter 2. Outside of that, you know, I can't vividly remember every single thing that happens. But in each chapter, right? It's still been a while. So, you know, I played the game like 3 years ago, right? So let's go to chapter 3 now. So chapter 3 is an interesting one for me. I might just say that every chapter, but when I originally played chapter 3, I loved it to death. Little did I know that a lot of people would complain about chapter 3 when I checked online, when I saw people's opinions online, which is always one of the most annoying things, is to just have a set opinion about something, and then you just go online and see that everyone disagrees with you, and you see why, and then you just kind of feel dumb. And I kind of hate the idea of just conforming to what everyone thinks online. I kind of want to make a video about that too. But chapter 3, I loved chapter 3. Probably because it focuses on my favorite DR1 character, Celeste. And I want to say right now, Celeste has a legacy in the series. This is going to be a weird statement, but Celeste's legacy lives on until V3. And it has to do with Angie's character and why I think Angie, we're going to get there, don't worry. Why I think Angie is potentially one of, if not the most like underrated characters in the entire series, and why I really, really like her. But aside from that, Celeste. I love Celeste. She's my favorite DR1 character. Is it because she's a cute goth girl? Maybe, yes, that has a lot to play into it. So I'm also going to make a video about why caring about aesthetics is completely valid. Or just why I value aesthetics, I guess. But not to just say that's the only reason I like her character. I'll get into why. So let's talk about Celeste. So Celeste, at the beginning of the game, Celeste proposes this idea to everyone that everyone agrees with. And she says everyone should stay in their room after a certain time at night. And no one should break this. And who do you think one of the first people to break that rule is? It's Celeste. But the thing is, the game doesn't outright just tell you, oh, Celeste broke her own rule. I don't remember any characters saying, oh, Celeste, you broke the rule that you suggested to everyone. And I'm referring to, I think, the chapter 2 case when someone sees Celeste. I think it was Chihiro, before Chihiro died, saw Celeste in that room with the like uniforms or whatever it was, like some supplies or something. So Celeste is just chilling out outside of her room past the hours, past nighttime hours. And the game never really tells you that, oh, Celeste is the one that, you know, suggested this rule and she's breaking it. You just kind of have to see what happens as you gather evidence for the trial or during the trial, right? And you see, oh, Celeste is hanging out in this room after nighttime hours. And and then as a player you realize, wait, she's the one that proposed this rule in the first place, and here she is breaking it. And that's consistent with her ability and her character. And I like that. It's important. Consistency is a very important thing. But that's something Celeste would do. She would propose something that is actually logical, and it even plays into like her final moments. She proposes something that is a good idea, that's logical, and that everyone can pretty much agree on. Maybe. That might be giving it too much credit. I don't know if everyone can agree. But Yeah, she'll propose this logical idea that sounds good, that sounds safe for everyone, and then she's one of the first people to break the rule, and I kind of just like that about her. So, and that's a really huge part about her character. You know, ultimate gambler. She lies a lot, and so in chapter 3, I'm gonna go ahead and just keep talking about Celeste instead of the murder, right? But she brings up the idea of adapting to life inside of the academy. She says all we have to do is accept our new life here in the academy, adapt to it, and live out the best life that we possibly can. And that's a valid opinion. You don't know what's outside. Everyone just assumes that the outside world is perfectly fine. And so she proposes this idea that no one else is really bringing up, and a lot of people disagree with her. But it's nevertheless not a bad idea. But in chapter 3, it's revealed that Celeste wanted to leave more than anyone else there. It's really interesting how consistent Danganronpa characters are written in that sense. Celeste was lying the entire time, and it makes perfect sense why she was lying the entire time. And that's why I guess I find her interesting. For her role, Celeste, I think, killed it. Yet she's not a character that develops like crazy, like Kirigiri does or Byakuya does, right? Yes, I get that, but for her role, I think Celeste does an amazing job. I don't think not every character needs to be this perfectly written character with super interesting motives that develops and like challenges their worldview, right? That's not necessary for a character to be good. A character needs to fill their role, which is also, I guess, why I can't stand when people hate on the navigators in Persona, right? Like the navigators are often my favorite characters, all right? But that's a different series. We'll talk about Persona another day. So in the actual murder, I liked how the actual murder happened. I mean, it was from the way Celeste was acting sus, right? So it's not hard to believe that it was her. And, you know, watching the anime, I remember that she died eventually. But, I don't know. I guess I just liked the sort of complexity of how the actual murder was carried out. How Hifumi wasn't like actually dead, right? Taka died. I didn't mention the stuff with Taka and the Mondo thing. I don't care. I'll be real. I don't care. Taka's one of those characters where on paper I love him because I like characters that are sticklers for the rules. But when I actually played the game, I did not care for Taka in the slightest. I think if I replayed, I might feel differently. But anyways, I enjoyed Chapter 3 a lot. I did. I guess if I were ranking the chapters, I would say Chapter 3 from DR1 is my... probably my second favorite. Maybe even... I guess I'd say my second favorite chapter. Ignoring the ending. I guess I'd say Chapter 5 is my favorite. Spoiler. So, yeah, Chapter 3, I think it's solid. And I want to say, at this point, I think what Danganronpa 1 nails the most, compared to the other games in the series, is its tone and its atmosphere and its setting. So, I love the idea of being cramped. I say cramped, but, like, it's sort of this claustrophobic feeling of being in this, like, oddly fancy school. It's, you know, it's often pretty dark, especially at night, right? It's really, it's kind of creepy. It's very creepy at nighttime, right? And Danganronpa kind of nails that. You know, when they turn the music off and it's nighttime and you're walking by yourself and it's spooky. So Danganronpa 1 nails that. And I think of all the games, Danganronpa 1 has my favorite setting of being trapped in this school that is supposed to be like the pinnacle of hope for the country, and they're just trapped there. and they can't get out. It's boarded up entirely. They can't see anything. They're so blind to the outside world, and it's perfect for the final reveal at the end of the game. My voice is actually starting to feel a little dry. One second. I don't want to edit these videos too much. I want to get good at just talking fluently, and as I'm looking at myself recording this, I realize just how often I stop in between words. But, you know, that's something I'm trying to get better at. That's why I made this channel, partially why. But anyways, I think Danganronpa 1 nails its setting, its atmosphere, and its tone. It feels a lot darker than the other games at times. And it's an amazing contrast between Danganronpa 1 and Danganronpa 2, how you could get two games that are just, they have the same premise and same ideas, but they're just so tonally different. It's really cool. So Danganronpa 1. I really love this game. I really love this game at this point. Like I said, I was grinding it super hard. And then we get to Chapter 4. I'll be honest, Chapter 4 is my least favorite chapter in the game. It's not bad. There's no chapter in Danganronpa that I think is bad. I enjoy Danganronpa inherently, and I just take anything I can get. I enjoy it to its entirety. But I think the reason Chapter 4 was one of my least favorites, if not, it was probably my least favorite from that game, was because it was the one I remembered the most, I think, from the anime. I just remembered that someone killed themselves. And so a lot of that mystery for me was gone. And I guess one of the cool things about it, if we're skipping straight to the trial, because I'm just kind of talking about it at whatever pace, right? But I guess one of the interesting parts is just the fact that everyone, like 3 people, admitted to killing Sakura. And I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I don't actually remember too much that happens throughout the rest of the chapter, but, you know, of course I remember the important parts. And I would say Chapter 4 made me hate Asahina. I usually really like characters like her that are cute and bubbly and hot, I guess. But for some reason, she just she really rubbed me the wrong way, how she tried to get everyone killed in this chapter. And it's important I bring this up because it comes up later in V3 and why I changed my mind about Asahina. I don't love Asahina now. I would just say I'm indifferent about her now. I guess at this point, what are some of my other opinions on other characters? So at this point, I don't like Toko. I think Toko, and if you could defend Toko purely from her role in DR1, I would love to hear it, because I really don't think she's a very good character. And I hate to state things so objectively like that, but I really just didn't see anything particularly great about her. Keep in mind, I did not do her friend time events. I would not love Toko until Ultra Despair Girls, and where I think Toko's an amazing character in Ultra Despair Girls. But in DR1, I think she's really lackluster, for me personally. Genocider, whatever you want to call her. She's enjoyable, I for the most part, right? I guess more so than the normal Toko. What are some other characters? I have a tier list pulled up. I think I'm gonna make a tier list video too. I really want to do a lot on this channel. I'm excited. Some other DR1 characters. You know, I didn't even mention Junko's death. In Chapter 2. How did I forget one of the most well set up twists in a video game? That was so well done. You know, writing a good twist, I feel like, is really hard nowadays, because it always seems so obvious in hindsight. But with Mukuro as Junko in Chapter 2, I think that was really good setup, and it made for a really good twist at the end of the game. But nevertheless, let's move on to other characters. Kirigiri. I love Kirigiri at this. I love her throughout the entire game. I do think over time I've become less passionate about her. I think when I watched the anime, I liked her a bit more. I still love her as a character, but I think I just care more about some other characters now. But I'm looking at this tier list and I put her in top tier. So, you know, maybe I'm just, you know, saying a bunch of nonsense. I still love her. I think she's a great character. Other DR1 characters. Let me look really quick. Sakura. I like Sakura. Usually I hate characters that have like a stupid design. Danganronpa will have like these characters with dumb designs, and then they'll make me like them sometimes, not all the times. Not all the time. You know, let's talk about Hifumi. Let's talk about why Hifumi is the worst Danganronpa 1 character. Potentially the worst character in the series. Maybe not my least favorite, because there are some characters... There's like 1 or 2 characters that I hate more. Maybe. But dang it, okay, so... Why is it that you make an anime-esque game and you write a character who likes anime and video games, and you make him the biggest loser you could possibly fathom? He is repulsively fat. He's repulsively obese. Not that you should just hate fat people. That's not my point. But when you make a character that likes things that the player likes, and you make them look grotesque and act grotesque, I just have to wonder why you would do that. I have to wonder why you would do that. That's so weird. I can't even fathom why they made Hifumi such a loser, such a bad character. I can only throw insults at him. But just he was a massive simp. He was a massive beta male. All you have to do to be successful in life is to just not be Hifumi. If you can let Hifumi guide you on exactly how not to be, then you're probably going to live a pretty decent life. Okay, that's enough hatred. I don't hate fat people. That's not the point. But it's really just, it comes down to the fact that Kodaka decided to make... No, okay, well, to be fair, I don't know if he's the one that designed Hifumi. Whoever designed Hifumi, you know, presented Hifumi to Kodaka, and then Kodaka said, oh yeah, this guy likes anime. Alright. My voice is starting to hurt. But we got a long way to go. So yeah, Hifumi, trash character. Other characters we have Yasuhiro. Yasuhiro was a waste of a character. I couldn't care less about him in the slightest. I don't like him. Who else do we have? Let's see. If you want to count Mukuro, I mean, she's not really a character in DR1. I have read Danganronpa If. I liked her in that. That's all I got to say. I guess I didn't talk about Leon. I don't hate Leon. I think it's interesting, the idea that someone is so talented at something and yet they have no interest in it whatsoever. I like that a lot. I think there are a lot of people like that in the world that, you know, grew up doing something just because they were good at it. They were kind of maybe even forced into it. You know, growing up, I actually played baseball. And one thing I hate is bragging about myself. I really do. But I think I can at least admit that I was pretty good at baseball. I wasn't very good at batting, but I was really good at fielding. Not that I was the best player ever or anything, but I was a pretty solid player. I was always at least told by my coaches that I was really good. Not to flex. I hate flexing on myself. I don't like doing it, but I guess if I'm being honest. So growing up, I was pretty good at baseball, I guess I would say. And I think I hated baseball. I was a massive crybaby when I was younger, and all my friends from like middle school or younger could like tell you that. Not that I really talk to them anymore. but I would cry over everything. If I struck out, I would cry a lot. Like, I couldn't stand like the imperfect. I don't know why I'm talking about, but anyway, so I was forced into, yeah, that's another video, another day. But I was kind of forced to play baseball just because I was good at it. No, I didn't completely not enjoy it. I had a lot of fun experiences with it. I made a lot of friends through it, and that sort of camaraderie is really nice. I think it's a great thing for younger people to have, for kids to have, right? I think it's a very good thing for kids to play sports because then they learn a lot of important values about being a good sport, not being a sore loser, accepting competitiveness. And just socializing and making connections. I think sports can be a really good thing. But, I was kind of forced into it. I didn't really like it. And, it's really funny because after I quit playing sports, because, eventually I just came to hate it. I came to hate it. I hated being, like, imperfect at it. And so, what I did? I actually took up music. And I actually also have red hair. I'm just now realizing right now how much I kind of actually relate to Leon. Wow. I never thought about it this way. Dang, I think I like Leon more than I thought. So I actually picked up music. That's what my main channel is, music channel. And that's where my true passion lies. I've become a music man. That's what I enjoy doing. And Leon specifically likes punk. In high school I loved like punk music and emo music and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, Leon. Wow, I talked more about Leon than I thought I would. Wow, I didn't actually think about the fact that I actually might relate to Leon more than I thought. That's what we do here. We make discoveries. But let's move on. Okay, I guess to finish my thoughts on Chapter 4. Chapter 4, I think it's a really good chapter, and I think it would be a lot of other people's favorite, but I think for me, it didn't really hit too hard. But I think that's fine. But you know what it ends on? It ends on the famous meme, what is it? Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, look out for her. Something like that, right? She whispers that in his ear. That's a good meme. I like it. I remember, I just remembered what I was doing when I played that chapter. So I was a senior in high school, and school was pretty easy. It was around the end of the school year, and it was pretty easy for me at that time. I didn't have a lot of schoolwork to do. I had school the next day. I was actually homeschooled. I had to actually go to this like church building that was also a school, like 2 days a week, and so the next day was that. And so it was super late. It was like 1 a.m. or something, or midnight. Well, not super late. That's not that late. But I wanted to play another full chapter so badly that I hyped myself up really hard. I grabbed my spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's that I had in the fridge, and I ate it. And I was gonna get ready to grind, and then I just played 2 full chapters in one sitting, and I played for 10 minutes, and I realized I was tired. I just remember hyping myself up so hard, and I just ended up, going to sleep after 10 minutes. Sorry, my voice is actually starting to wear. Drink water. So yeah, Chapter 5. Chapter 5, I think, sets... I love the tone of Chapter 5, and I use that word a lot here. The weird mystery of that body that shows up. It's dope. I don't have much to say. It's just a really dope mystery. And then we get to the trial, and I think at this point Byakuya declared that he was going to win the game, and that was such a sick moment. That was such a cool moment for Byakuya's character. That's part of why it was really satisfying to see this character who was so bent on... he kept declaring his victory, but by the end of the game, he was declaring that he was just going to beat the mastermind. And it felt so good to have someone like him on your side that it felt so satisfying. It's just such a cool moment for his character. And I really do like Byakuya as a contrast to Naegi. I think a lot of people compare him to Nagito and Kokichi, and I see why. He doesn't really represent the game's themes too well, but he is a nice contrast to Mikoto, I think. Anyways, Chapter 5. I love Chapter 5. I like the weirdo bad ending thing. I kind of wish they would have done that again in some of the other games. And then it ends with Makoto being the one that's executed. And you know, DR1 did some of the weirdest things in the game, in the series. And keep in mind, you know, DR1's the game that it's literally designed Danganronpa as we know it from the ground up. Like, we couldn't have had 2 or V3 without Danganronpa 1. And I kind of wish people would just give credit where credit's due. And, you know, praise DR1 a little bit more. And just because Danganronpa 2, in my opinion, perfected its, like, 2 and V3 perfected its formula, doesn't mean that DR1 is bad in comparison. Or it doesn't invalidate DR1. But moving on. Chapter 5. I love Chapter 5. And I think it's a really good setup for the ending. And so you get to the ending. And you get to explore this separate part of the school. And I remember that investigation being a lot of fun. I think box 15 or 16 plays. It's got like the guitar, the lead guitar part in it, that has become a staple of the final investigation themes in all the games. And you know, you run into like Kirigiri and you find out about her father, you know, who was executed at the beginning. It's a pretty cool character moment. And I really like the build up to the final trial. It feels tense. Feels like a lot's on the line. And when they reveal Junko and they show how everything was set up, I just think that's such an amazing twist. And Junko is such an iconic character. Like, an actually iconic character. She's like the most cosplayed character of all time or something. And you get this just crazy, over-the-top, unexpected, weirdo character who changes her persona every 5 seconds because she gets bored of it. Because she just gets bored of everything, and that's why she's latched on to the idea of being the ultimate despair. Because she's bored. Because she's bored. That's part of it. I know there's much more to it. Junko, the people that undermine Junko as a character, I think they're just wrong. I think the people that undermine Junko as a villain are wanting something much more traditional, and I think I just morally disagree with that. I like that Junko is this over-the-top, stupid, crazy girl that gets bored of herself and everything in the world. Every 5 seconds, she changes her persona every 5 seconds. All for the sake of despair. It's like this really odd, over-the-top, and it's this over-the-top, what's the word? Take? Is there a better word than that? I guess this over-the-top take on a comically evil villain that just wants to destroy the world because they're evil and they want to destroy the world, and that's it. Or something along those lines. They're just evil for the sake of being evil, just because they have to be. But I think you have to look at the world of Danganronpa and what it is. It's just, you have to think about the fact that it's this over-the-top world where people can have really obscure talents, whether it's being a moral compass or being the incarnate of despair itself, or being someone like the ultimate imposter who literally he doesn't have an identity because he is the ultimate imposter. You have to realize how over the top Danganronpa is with its world. And I kind of just admire that. I think it's fun. And I think that's the most important thing. And one of the most important things in media or entertainment media is to be fun. That's the most important thing. It's not complexity or depth. It's literally to be fun. And I'm going to make a video. It's a million times I've said that. It's about how the most important thing about fiction is to be... It's literally just to be fun and entertained. That's the most important thing. So Junko, she's also sexy. I have to point that out about every character I think is hot, because I don't know, horny on main, right? No. Yeah, so I personally love Junko as a villain, and it's not just because of DR1. It's because of the meme that Junko became throughout the entire series. I love it. I love it so much. I love Danganronpa. I'm so passionate about this series. So yeah, and then the twist, you learn about the fact that was Mukuro, right? But Mukuro doesn't really matter that much until later spin-off things in the anime and stuff. But I love the reveal of the outside world. This thing that everyone had been working for this entire time. Once you learn the truth, part of you wants to take it back. Everyone wanted to take it back. Everyone wanted to just live the rest of their lives there, where they know they'd be safe. Now, I don't know if Junko actually would have let them, but I don't know, maybe she would have. Maybe she would have killed them, because that would have been even more despairful. So, Naegi, Mr. Hope Man himself, convinces everyone. But anyways, so I think the actual reveal of DR1, I actually think it's amazing. I think a lot of people, compare it to 2 and V3, and they don't like it as much. But I think it was well done. I really do. I think it was well done. I think people would really respect the first game more if it was the only game in the series. But, it is what it is. I can understand. I'm not saying it's my favorite ending in the series. We'll get to what my favorite ending is. But it's also not my least favorite. So at this point, and man, I love the final shot of them. They're at the vault that you've seen many times before. You're at the vault that you started at the beginning of the game when you were introduced to the characters. And the last remaining students are there. It's way less. It's like 5 people compared to the 15 or 16 or whatever that it was originally. And they open up the vault. And then at that point, once the game was out, that's all you knew. You don't know what happens to them. Now, unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, but I didn't play the game at the time when it was the only one in the series. I imagine if you played that game before DR2 was announced, that you were probably just dying to know more, because Danganronpa set up such an interesting world, had such a great setting, had such a great premise, and then they leave you on this really amazing note of just every character accepting the fact that they might just die as soon as they walk out. They could get gunned down. They could just, suffocate or something. They don't know what's outside of the building, but they had to take that chance for the sake of possibly living a better life. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I think it's a great game. I think it's a beautiful game. I really do. Growing up, pretty much most of, if not all my life, my favorite game of all time was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. The door, right? Open the door, or whatever. And I never thought a game would top it for me. I really didn't. I thought, just nothing's ever going to hit me as hard as Paper Mario: 1,000 Year Door does. That was a game I, would replay like every Christmas break when I would get off from school. And I played Danganronpa 1, and I said to myself, I've never been this captivated by a video game before. It was the first time in such a long time that I felt so much like anticipation for something a video game did. I credit Danganronpa for my rediscovering of video games. At that time, I didn't really... I wasn't passionate about any of the games that I played. I didn't really feel much about the games I played. You know what I would do? I would play like Rocket League by myself against computers. It was really sad. I didn't really play online anymore with anybody. That sounds sad when I say that. It's not that sad. I think I wasted a lot of my time in middle school and early high school playing stupid multiplayer games that didn't really... I just swallowed this water wrong. It didn't really mean anything to me, other than just, oh, let me have let me have a minute of dopamine or something. I don't know. It was very meaningless. And I'm gonna make a video. I've said that many times about what I constitute as meaningless. But Danganronpa 1, I really credit it for influencing my taste in video games and helping me rediscover video games. Because after Danganronpa 1, or after I played Danganronpa, I just really wanted to find more interesting games that I had not known about before, to just get a fun experience, a more meaningful experience that I would remember, not just playing Call of Duty for however many hours or days or whatever, right? So Danganronpa 1 ends, and you know, I went to Danganronpa 2 immediately. But I want to say I think Danganronpa 1 is an amazing game, and when I beat it, I think it like became my favorite game of all time. But yeah, I loved it. I think it's a 10 out of 10 game personally. So we get to Danganronpa 2. So I love every single Danganronpa game in the series to death. 1, 2, V3, Ultra Despair Girls. I love all of them. Danganronpa 2, no exception. Right from the bat, right from the get-go, I love the contrast of settings and how it's this really bright, cheerful looking set of islands compared to the dark, dreary, claustrophobic school. I love that. It was a weirdo introduction of how Monokuma, you know, wasn't there at first. It was supposed to be, oh, we're just here to have fun, get to know each other, or stuff like that, right? So I really do love that intro to Danganronpa 2, and with Nagito looking down at you like that. And you know, Monokuma introduces himself. It's dope. Introduces the killing game. And then you're back to Danganronpa. Just like we know it. So, wow, I'm spacing out a lot here. I guess let's just get right into... Let's just get into the first chapter. So, chapter 1. At this point, I think I like Hajime. I would actually say Hajime, by the end of Danganronpa 2, is my least favorite protagonist in the series. But I do actually think he's probably a better character than Naegi. And I still do really like him. I do admire him. Chapter 1, you have this weirdo mystery with Byakuya, Fat B. I always call him Fat Byakuya instead of the imposter. I don't know why. I sound like I hate fat people in this video. It's not it. But I actually grew to really like him. I did. I liked how, even though he was the ultimate imposter, you could tell it wasn't really Byakuya, right? He acted differently. He put others before himself. It was a noble thing. I guess looking at the cast of DR2, I'm kind of all over the place, I'm sorry. Looking at the cast of DR2, it really is an amazing cast. But let's get into it. I guess chapter 1, I actually love chapter 1. The only game in the series that I replayed, and any chapters at all, really in their entirety, was Danganronpa 2. I replayed chapters 1 through 4 and I did like half of 5. And I think on my second playthrough, I really liked the first chapter. The mystery of Byakuya was a very interesting thing. It was really like a WTF moment for people that had played Danganronpa 1. But keep in mind, I said I watched Danganronpa 3, and that was such a stupid thing because there were things that I knew that I wasn't supposed to know. My memory was obviously super hazy, but I had known that there was someone that was an imposter. I did know that, and I figured, that's probably who this Byakuya guy is, right? So that mystery for me didn't really exist, which is unfortunate. And, but the biggest thing, I didn't remember anything about Nanami's death. Chiaki, I always call her Nanami. I didn't remember it. I remembered something about her, but I didn't really recall what exactly happened to her or how that happened, but whatever. So Danganronpa 1, what's the murder? It's Fat Byakuya gets murdered by Teru Teru. And then you have the crazy freaking weirdo reveal about Nagito, this really sus man. And I mean, I feel like right from there you can tell Nagito is gonna be this really bizarre character, and no one else is ever going to. It's gonna be unlike any character you've ever seen in an anime or played in a game. It really is. He's a really unique character. I love Nagito. But at the beginning, you have Teru Teru who murders Fat Byakuya. I want to say Teru Teru is garbage. I hate Teru Teru. He might be my least favorite character in the series, maybe. I hate his design. I hate every single line that he says, I think. Maybe he's vaguely funny. That's the most credit I will give him. I hate him. I did not feel one tiny bit of empathy for him about his mama, about his ma. I didn't care one bit. I really, really didn't. I don't know why I should. I don't know. They tried to humanize him at the last minute. I don't care. Didn't make me feel anything. It didn't make me feel anything. I don't even think it was all that crazy good of a backstory, but whatever. So I guess I'm going through this kind of quick, but I need to go a little bit faster. Danganronpa 2. Chapter 2. So chapter 2. I think chapter 2 is underrated. I think the game that you have to play, the weirdo arcade game that's like a reference to some other really obscure game, is really, really cool. I didn't like it all that much in my first playthrough as I did my second playthrough of the second chapter. On the second chapter, I was like, this is a really unique thing in the series. There's not anything else really like this. I like the idea of having to solve the mystery in the game. You're playing a game within a game, and you have to solve that mystery to solve the real murder. It's such a weird thing. Nevertheless, I liked it. I think it's a really cool thing. At this point, I hated Fuyuhiko as a character. Little did I know that Fuyuhiko would become one of my favorite characters in the series. He really is. Especially one of my favorite, male characters. If we're talking male characters, I'd say, top 3, probably. And then he had this whole thing going on with Peko. And, the execution... I guess I'm kind of skipping some parts. You have let's actually talk about the murder first. You have Mahiru, who gets murdered by Peko. And Mahiru, who I always want to call her My Hero, because it makes me think of the Foo Fighters song. Not My Hero Academia. I hate My Hero Academia. I can talk about that. I don't really want to make videos about things I hate. I'm not really too interested in it. I mean, every now and then I might, but I don't really like that, but whatever. Mahiru, who I think is oddly, stupidly attractive. Probably just because of the secret scene with her in the shower or whatever. But she's also got a super naggy personality, which I'm kind of not super into all the time. Sometimes I can get into, but I think she's a little too much. Well, she gets murdered by Peko. Pekko's a character that I feel like I should have loved because I love like a goth aesthetic, and I love like those tights that she wears. But for some reason, I don't really feel anything towards Peko. I like the aesthetic, but I don't feel particularly attracted to her. I do like what she does for Fuyuhiko's character later, but nevertheless, she killed another woman. And it's not cool. She had a pretty weirdo reveal. I keep saying weirdo reveal in the trial, putting on this persona with that mask or whatever, and it was like, all right, Danganronpa, I see you. Danganronpa loves it. Danganronpa loves these weird tonal shifts between, you know, being super dark and dreary and hopeless, to just over the top and funny and goofy. And I really one of my favorite things in writing is just having a really crazy tonal shifts like that. I really enjoy. Well, I think it ties into why I like characters that are like half comedic relief and then half like super serious. There's my second favorite character of all time, who I'm gonna make a dedicated video about, Kuriko Shirai from the Index Railgun series, is a perfect example of that. But that kind of like embodies Danganronpa to a degree of just being super wacky and over the top, but also like super dark and serious and having like genuinely touching messages, right? But yeah, so Danganronpa, okay, second chapter, I don't really have much to say other than I think chapter 2 was a good setup for Fuyuhiko's character. I liked the game, I liked the mystery. It's cool at this point. It's not one of my favorite chapters ever, but I think it's by far my favorite second chapter in the series. But moving on to one of my favorite chapters in the entire series, chapter 3 of Danganronpa 2. Chapter 3, first of all, I always remember Ibuki's super metal performance. This weird experimental metal music that she plays. I love that scene so much. You know, Ibuki's kind of a walking K-On! Reference, which is like my favorite anime. So I love the dichotomy, if I use that word correctly, of the fact that she was in this girly high school pop rock band in her light music club or whatever, or something like that. To the fact that she wanted to branch out to different genres, and you know, the fact that she does this like crazy experimental metal stuff, it's so fitting, because I feel like the more sorry, I feel like the more proficient you become at something, the more you crave for weirdness out of that thing. So, like, I love music. I always love music-related characters and shows and games and whatnot. So I always end up liking these characters. So it's very fitting that she's so talented at guitar that she gets kind of bored with the stuff that, you know, people love to hear from her. So she, you know, starts playing this really crazy experimental stuff because it, you know, it satisfies her. That's like what she wants to explore, and it that makes so much sense. If you know anyone that's super artsy, they'll always end up enjoying stuff that's particularly weird or out there or crazy or experimental that most people probably wouldn't like. I don't think I've gone that far yet. I admire experimental music, but I don't crave to make experimental music, or I guess experimental music. Okay, you know what? This is a conversation earlier. I need to move on. Ibuki, I love Ibuki. She's one of my favorite characters in the series. But so I always remembered that. I love that music, that there's a music venue there. It's really cool. And anyways, the way that this whole chapter gets kickstarted is, you know, they have these like random diseases or whatever that have very specific effects. Like Ibuki is just super gullible and will do anything you say, pretty much, which I really thought was going to be used in a way that it wasn't. And then you have Nagito, who lies every sentence. So it's a pretty interesting setup, a really interesting motive, I guess, if you want to call it that. Maybe they had COVID, right? No. And then Mikan definitely takes up an important role in this chapter, and I'll go ahead and say Mikan is potentially my favorite Danganronpa 2 character. I think I'd probably say Mikan's my favorite Danganronpa 2 character. There are a lot of others close. Nagito's close. Nanami's definitely up there. Fuyuhiko's definitely up there. Yeah. So, I guess right off the bat, you could, suspect Mikan because she's super active in that chapter. But what I love this chapter is, well, first of all, one point is Fuyuhiko starts becoming a complete bro. Fuyuhiko really started winning me over as a character in chapter 3. But anyways, I don't know, he really took responsibility and was very much so trying his hardest to change and become a better person. I really like that. And I think one of the most fascinating murders in the entire series is definitely this chapter 3. I think the way they set it up, of where it's dawn or whatever, it's super early morning. Hajime gets up, goes downstairs, he checks the tablet thing where they're using to communicate, and he's the only one there, and then this video starts playing, and it gets dark, and there's a candle, and then you just see Ibuki climbing, walking towards a ladder that leads to a noose. And the atmosphere is perfect. Danganronpa kills it. Danganronpa does this so well. They set this atmosphere so well. And I just remember getting the chills. That was one of my favorite moments in the game. And I was so terrified that it was, Ibuki, right? Character that I loved at this point. And I guess murder stuff happens. And then you also find that Hyoko's been killed. And then, I actually kind of liked Hyoko. But I guess I don't have great reasoning for liking her. I just kind of do. I also kind of hate her too, because, Mikan's probably my favorite character in the game. And she just bullies the mess out of her. So I should theoretically hate her, but I kind of don't. I kind of thought she just had ups and downs. I don't know. So I thought the murder was just really well done. It was really well set up. And I was devastated that it was Mikan. I was devastated. I so desperately didn't want it to be Mikan. I really didn't. I thought the reveal, though, of Mikan, that was so... It makes so much sense for her character, with her past trauma and whatnot. But also, it was such great foreshadowing of, one of the big twists, one of the big reveals of Danganronpa 2. I thought it was really well done. Of all the chapter 3 reveals, right? Because there's always a weird reveal from a character. That's definitely by far my favorite. It's not even close. Moving on. Let's do a character update. What do I think about the characters from Danganronpa 2 at this point in the game? So like I said, I love Nanami, I love Mikan, I love Nagito, I love Ibuki. I didn't mention this, by the way. I love Monokuma. I think Monokuma is a phenomenal villain. I would compare Monokuma to someone like Handsome Jack from Borderlands, where he's so bad, but he's also so funny and enjoyable that you can't hate him. I love villains like that so much. But yeah, Fuyuhiko. I love Fuyuhiko. I'm just going through this. Sonya. The amount of times I suspected Sonya was actually insane. I think almost every chapter, every chapter from probably Like 2, 3, 4, and 5, I was like, bro, Sonya's the killer. I don't think I was ever right. No, I love Sonya. I love her humor. I love the fact that she completely ignores Soda, who's a beta loser, and I guess for some reason likes Gundam. I actually don't really like Gundam that much. I made fun of Gundam a lot, but I never really liked him much as a character. Soda, I loved at first. I thought he was a bro. But in Chapter 4, when he kind of betrays you a bit, he doesn't really go near you, I really didn't like him. I actually felt, like, personally betrayed by him. Sonya, I think Sonya's just a super great comedic relief character. I just want to visit her kingdom or whatever. I want to visit her country. I don't remember what it was called. She's super cute. I love her stockings. It's one of my things I like. I like her name, Sonya Nevermind. Like, why is that her name? I don't know. It fits very well. I love Sonya. I think she fills a really nice role in the game. Quite enjoyable. I don't know how much depth or complexity there is to her, but I think she fits her role very well. And I think that's an important thing when you have so many characters in each game. It's hard to, write all of them masterfully. I think it's completely fine for a character to just fill their specific role. I think Sonya does that super well. We have Hajime. I kind of said Hajime is my least favorite protagonist, but I do think he's a good character for sure. And then, sorry, I'm looking at a list. Peko, I've already said. I like her. I like what she did for Fuyuhiko, but I didn't personally feel much for her. Fat Byakuya, I like him. He's cool. A character I tend to like more and more as I think about him. Soda, I already talked about. Nekomaru, forgot about him. Nekomaru is I just don't care. I don't really care about anything about him. I don't like that personality type too much. Nothing that his character represented particularly resonated with me. I don't hate him, but I don't love him either. Gundam, already said. Gundam, personally, I liked making fun of him, but I did not seriously like him as a character very much, and I know a lot of people do. I think a lot of women love Gundam. I've seen so many women say that Gundam is their favorite Danganronpa character. Someone would have to explain to me why. I don't think he's a bad character at all. I think he's generally a good character, but I wonder what it is that resonates about him that resonates with people so much. Hyoko, I think she has ups and downs. There were things that she did that I hated, but generally I kind of liked her, actually. Oh my goodness, how did I forget about potential, like, who I think might have been my most hated character in the series for a while? Akane. I hate Akane. I never hear people talk about hating Akane. I think this is one of my weirdo opinions, but I really don't like her. I do not like that character archetype very much. I don't even like her design, really. I do generally like tan girls in anime and game stuff, right? But I don't like her. I don't know. Her boobs are too big. I'll be real. I don't really like that. She's not feminine. She's not feminine enough. I feel like if you're gonna be I can like tomboy characters. I do like tomboy characters. Like, I love Ritsu from K-On! I think she's actually a really underrated character. But I like for tomboys to have some sort of feminine side to them. I actually did like Sakura a lot, who's very masculine. But, I don't know. I guess I just respected Sakura as a character. But Akane, I don't respect Akane as a character. I really don't like her at all. I think she was intended to be like the villain or something. I don't know. I hear that a lot. I don't know how true that is. Maybe that would have made me like her more. I don't know. I didn't like her. I thought she was an annoying brat who had way too much pride and did too much stupid stuff and didn't really do anything to redeem herself. I think Akane made me the most angry of any Danganronpa character. I need a break. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. That took no time for editing. For you watching this video, who's literally no one's gonna watch this. Moving on. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is freaking crazy, bro. It's this really bizarre setting, this environment that makes you kind of want to puke, and that's kind of the point. The characters like starve nearly to death. And then the twist of like, oh, the way that whole murder was set up was crazy. That was one of the most intricate like murders ever. That was really well done. And then like the Zero Escape reference and that like escape room is so cool. I love that part of the game. And then the Nagito's character at the end of the game, or like once Nagito, not the end of the game, once Nagito learns the truth about their situation or whatever, or like Hajime, that's such a crazy tonal shift for his character, and it's so well done. It's so cool. I feel like this was a very weird experimental chapter. I would say it's the weirdest chapter, and probably one of the weirdest chapters in the series, ignoring the you know what chapter in V3. Right? Of just the normal chapters, I think that's the weirdest, most experimental one. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I think I enjoy it. Actually, part of me might enjoy it more in hindsight. Man, my throat's really starting to get sore here. Yeah, dope chapter. Really cool. I don't have much to say. Can I move on? I was mind blown. Yeah, keep in mind at this point, I still play a chapter a night. Just so you know, I beat Danganronpa 1 and 2 in the span of 2 weeks. So, yeah, I grinded it pretty hard. So super well done. And then we get to chapter 5. Chapter 5 was, at the time, before anything else had come out, before V3 or anything, chapter 5 was so crazy. It was insane. That was one of the most well set up like murder mystery whodunit cases I think I've ever witnessed. I think's ever been written. And I'll go ahead and say that even then I don't think it tops V3's 5th chapter, but we'll get there. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and say now I'm gonna make a separate video about V3. I'll go ahead and say now V3 is my favorite game of all time. It's my favorite game in the series. I'm gonna make a whole separate video about why I love V3 so much. But back to DR2. Chapter 5, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. So, just the fact that Nagito was such a maniac that he, threatened to bomb the whole island, which was just a complete bluff. And then literally, essentially got himself killed and used his ability, his ultimate luck to reveal who the traitor was, that it was Anonymous, was one of the most insane things I've ever witnessed in a game. That was so absurd, and I don't know how you come up with something like that. It was seriously one of the craziest experiences I've had in a video game. And just props to Kodaka. Props to Kodaka. Or anyone involved in writing that. Oh my goodness, it was so well done. And I guess I didn't talk about Monami. I like Monami. And I think a lot of people don't. I do. I love Monami. I like the contrast of Monami and Monokuma. It's funny. Okay. I don't know. I liked the humor of it. That's about it, really. Nanami. So at this point, Nanami becomes a phenomenal character as well. I mean, she was already a great character. She was super sexy gamer woman that who is quite literally panders to everyone playing the game, right? The fact that she was designed probably to be a perfect girl in the eyes of any like straight male playing the game is kind of fun. Like, it just worked so well. She's like stupid hot. She has a great personality, and then she's super helpful, and she's a gamer, right? It's like legitimately probably every little otaku boy's dream girl, right? Nanami. Yeah. I'm getting tired, by the way. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Can't believe I'm gonna upload this. I don't even know what to say. I feel like if you've played the game, you already know everything about Nanami. I don't really need to explain why she's a great character. I'm gonna just move on. The finale, chapter 6. Is it weird to say that I don't remember chapter 6 from Danganronpa 2 very well? I remember parts of it being really trippy. I will say, I think it might be my least favorite final chapter in the series. I think Danganronpa 2 nails the middle chapters, but has the weakest beginning and end in the series. Whereas in V3, I think the exact opposite. But chapter 6, I mean, it's some crazy stuff goes down. The real meme of Junko starts in this, where she shows up and she's the villain again. It's really weird. And then the DR1 characters show up again, and then it's crazy, and it's like, what's going on? What happened? And it's so satisfying to see them, though. It really is, because you have no idea what happened to them at the end of DR1, and so when you see they're there, it's just, oh, it's such a hype moment. And then some really trippy scenes happen. You know, I didn't even mention like the Nagito thing on the ship. That was a crazy scene. You can make videos have been made about Nagito. He's a mad lad. Nagito is, I think, the reason that Danganronpa 2 is such an amazing game. Honestly, I don't have a lot to say about the ending of Danganronpa 2. I really don't. I feel like it's the ending that did the least to me. I guess I was happy that essentially all the characters are alive. But in a way, it's very un-Danganronpa, right? So I guess how it ties into the anime. I guess if you want to look at the Despair arc, I actually like the Despair arc. A lot of people say it took away a lot from what the series had built up. I kind of don't agree. I kind of think it's just a fun backstory to the games. I don't know. I think it's fine. A lot of people hate the brainwashing thing. Okay. Was the brainwashing thing not foreshadowed? Because I remember as I played the game, I knew that people complained about brainwashing stuff. I kind of knew about that. But when I played the game, I don't know if they changed this in 1-2 Reload, but I'm pretty sure that they actually physically mentioned the word brainwash. I'm pretty sure it was foreshadowed, and I think everyone said it was a cop-out. And I'm confused because I don't agree. I honestly didn't think... I've seen the Danganronpa 2... I've seen the Despair arc twice, and I mean, the second time when I actually had the context of the games, I didn't think it was that bad. I really didn't. I don't... Honestly, I guess that's an unpopular opinion. I thought it was fine. I thought the Despair arc was actually a pretty fun thing. For what it was, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think it's phenomenal, but I think it's fine. I enjoyed it. And then you had the Future arc. I think the Future arc is disappointing because it's like a different killing game, but at the same time, they're just trying to do something different. But so many of the characters they introduced were just like, bro, I just don't care. I liked Chisa. That was about it. I didn't really get much out of Future arc. I'll be real. I liked kind of how fan servicey the ending felt, like the final episode where everyone shows up and it's basically all over. And I'll say that I did really like that. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the conclusion to it. I thought it was fine. I really don't agree too much with everyone's hatred for the anime. I know a lot of people do like it. But yeah, honestly, I don't have much to say about it. I guess if I want to mention Danganronpa 0, I didn't finish Danganronpa 0. I do know sort of the twist, but from what I did read of it, I read like the first volume and a half. I thought it was so like well written and interesting. The character, the main girl, I think it's like Ryoko or Ryoka or whatever. I think she's a phenomenal character. I think she's actually amazing. But there's like twists, some about her being Junko or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to actually finish reading it. But moving on, Ultra Despair Girls. I love Ultra Despair Girls. I think hold on, let me do my final thoughts on Danganronpa 2. Danganronpa 2 is phenomenal. I think it's a masterpiece. I think all of the games are masterpieces in my opinion. Do I like it more than DR1? I don't know. I think I like it about the same. I think it definitely perfects the formula that DR1 set. And I think it definitely did some, I guess purely in terms of writing, I think it was better. But I like them about the same. I think the cast is phenomenal. I would say I like the cast of DR2 a lot more than DR1. I think Danganronpa 1 had too many characters I didn't care about. But the thing is, Danganronpa 2 actually had characters that I hated more. I hate Akane and Teru a lot. Right? But compared to like Danganronpa 1, there's just a lot of characters that I just didn't really care about that I think were just kind of wasted. But DR2, I loved a lot of the characters. I love Mikan, Ibuki, Nanami, Nagito, Fuyuhiko. It's got a really solid cast. It really does. So overall, man, I love Danganronpa 2. I think it's an amazing game. I feel like I had less to say about it. Part of me, I will say, does have a slight distaste, very slight distaste towards Danganronpa 2 because so many people I've heard whose favorite game is DR2 will follow up and say that it is by far the best game in the series, and I think that's such a... I just have to hardcore disagree. I don't think Danganronpa 2 is by far better than 1 or V3. And in fact, I think V3 does things that blow Danganronpa 2 out of the water. I don't think V3 is inherently better than Danganronpa 2, but I think V3 has the highest high points in the series. Well, I'm gonna make a whole video on V3. I am. Danganronpa 2, loved it. I think it's a masterpiece. Great game. Moving on, Ultra Despair Girls. Ultra Despair Girls was for me unexpectedly really good. Toko and Komaru was such a great dynamic. Komaru was like super cute. I love her personality. I love her character arc. I like her a lot more than Naegi actually. I love Naegi, or Makoto I should say. And I like Komaru even more. I don't know. And Toko, like I said, Toko from DR1, I thought she was honestly a pretty poorly written character. I didn't do her friend time events, so I can't fully say that. But, I mean, they just did such a great job with her. Humanizing her more, getting a better understanding of her perspective. She develops quite nicely with alongside Komaru. And it's such a nice relationship. I don't mean romantic. I just mean a character relationship, a normal one. Komaru, I guess the whole point of her character is the fact that when she lives in the world of Danganronpa, where there are so many like over the top, crazy talented people, and anyone beneath them just can't even be compared. They're like godlike figures in their world, and Kamaru is, you know, very average. She's very, very average. She's very, very plain. And when she surrounds herself by these, when she's surrounded by these freaks and weirdos that are crazy talented at something or whatever, she feels like she can't really do anything because she's not talented. She's not, and that's a big part of her character. She loses a lot of hope and confidence in herself because actually kind of similar to Hajime in that sense, to where because she's, you know, not as crazy talented as some other people in that world, that there's not much she can do, that she's kind of powerless. And the thing is, that's false. You're not powerless, girl. What are you talking about? And then you have the, what are they called? The kids, the Warriors of Hope. Some of them I hate, some of them I like. I hate the red-haired kid and Jotaro, the trash kid. I hate both of them. They're just stupid. I hate the obsession of being a hero. I kind of want to make a video about that, and kind of a comparison of like My Hero Academia with, like, you know, anti-hero characters, or like, you know, Tuaru characters, because that's actually a big thing in Tuaru, kind of. But that's not a video another day. I've talked about so many other video ideas, right? I'm hungry, bro. Anyways, I hate the obsession with being a hero. I really do. I think it's stupid and not admirable in the slightest. And I don't like him because of that. Jotaro is just obnoxious. That's my reasoning. There's probably, if you could convince me that he's actually a super well-written character, you could go ahead. I'd be interested in hearing you out, but I don't particularly care about him in the slightest. Then we have, oh my goodness. I think instead of going chapter by chapter, I'm going to talk about just overall what I think about Danganronpa, Ultra Despair Girls. Ultra Despair Girls was crazy, dude. I can't believe it was created. I can't believe that Ultra Despair Girls can exist today. Honestly, I think if Ultra Despair Girls was made right now, people would freak out and riot over it. Oh my, there's some stuff that happens in that game is so dark and just touches on so many like touchy subjects that are just like taboo. Like, we could get into the sexualized. Okay, first of all, Kodoko, the pink twin-tailed girl, has one of the most traumatic backstories about being a literal child prostitute, and she has PTSD whenever you say the word gentle. She starts freaking out because she was sexually abused by adults, and that was crazy. I always remember the image they showed from her backstory of her just huddled up against the wall or whatever, just terrified of those adult men that were gonna have their way with her. And that is just, it's like that's horrific. I love that the game went that far. I love when games aren't afraid, or just anime or whatever it is, when fiction is not afraid to discuss dark themes like this. You should not be afraid to discuss dark themes like this out of social pressure. That is something that people need to get in their heads, that this is something we should be able to discuss openly. It's not glorification. Don't say that it's glorifying child prostitution, because that's a blatant lie. It's doing the exact opposite. I think this is something we need to actually talk more about. And I'm moving the microphone, sorry. But we need creators that are not scared to discuss some of the horrific things that happen in the world. And we also need to not let creators feed us directly on what their exact opinion is sometimes about certain topics. That's another thing. I don't like the pushing of agendas in video games. I hate it. That's why I guess I'm not getting political. I don't want to do that on this channel, but that's why Life is Strange 2 is a garbage game. Life is Strange 2 should not exist. That is a game that shoves its agenda down your throat. What does this have to do with Ultra Despair Girls? Ultra Despair Girls, in my opinion, wants you to think for yourself. I really do think that. It doesn't... A lot of times it doesn't, I feel like, blatantly tell you this is good, this is bad. It presents a lot of things that are going to make you uncomfortable, and they don't tell you that it's okay, and they don't tell you that it's not okay. Maybe only I think this or view it this way, but I really do think that's the case. One example is, I forgot his name, but what's the guy's name? With the long hair, the Toa guy who wants to destroy the children, right? And he's like begging you to destroy the thing at the end of the game. What's his name? He's got the long hair. He's really creepy and has some really messed up ways of solving things, but I actually think he's a good character. I forgot his name though. I want to say Himura, but I don't think that's it. What is it? I don't remember his name. Whatever. I don't think it's Himura. That's the Index character designer. Whatever though. Man, so many dark themes in this game though. Just the whole thing with Komaru being like sexually assaulted. Man, this game really went that far. Discusses like child abuse. It's really crazy. I'm so glad it exists. This game does so many great things, and I think it's unfair that people... Okay, it's fair that if you don't feel comfortable playing it, that's fine. That's completely up to you. You don't have to play it. But I disagree with people's disencouragement of talking about those things, of making things like that. I think more people should be making things that you're uncomfortable with. I think being uncomfortable is necessary to live a, how do I say it, mentally fruitful life. I'm not wording it very well, but I think it's very important that we are presented with things that make us feel uncomfortable for the sake of challenging our worldviews or our views on specific subjects. I think Ultra Despair Girls really goes far with some things that it discusses, and a lot of people won't play it because of that, but I actually think it's an amazing game. I really, really do. I also just enjoy the gameplay. I love the aesthetic of Ultra Despair Girls, actually. I don't know, I thought it was a very fun game. I liked the puzzles. I love the dialogue. I think it's a great game. Those are my opinions on that. Oh, I didn't talk about Nagisa. He's a cool character. Monica, however you want to say her name. I like her. She's crazy. Maybe that's why. Yeah. And we're up to V3. So I want to make a separate video on V3. One, because my voice hurts. And two, because I have so much I want to say about that game that I can't talk about it all right now. I really can't. I will go ahead and say that Danganronpa V is my favorite game in the series, and it's my favorite game of all time. And I think V3... Oh, I just need to dedicate a whole video to it. I love that game so much. I've never had a more thrilling roller coaster experience with a video game in my entire life. All I'm going to say is I love it to death, and I'm going to make a whole other video on it, discussing, going much more in depth about what I think about each character, what I think about each chapter, the ending, the beginning, everything about it. Love that game to death. If you watch this, why did you watch this? I don't know. This channel is honestly, I kind of just making this to satisfy myself. That sounds weird saying it that way, but I made this channel just because I wanted to speak my mind on things. I just wanted to talk about stuff, and yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tell anyone about this channel. I think I will eventually, but probably not for a while. If you somehow find this and listen to this, that's cool. I plan to talk about a bunch of my favorite things and just, thoughts that come through my head. Not every video will be this long. I want to talk about stuff like Code Geass, Certain Magical Index and Scientific Railgun, K-On! I want to talk about video games like Persona, Fire Emblem, that's a big one that I want to do. Talk about music. We'll talk about a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna have fun talking about whatever. These are gonna be very low effort videos. I'll be real. I'm not gonna do much editing. Maybe just, get rid of some of the awkward silence. But I had fun talking about this, and I'm gonna keep talking about stuff because I like to discuss what I think about some things, and I want to try to get better at explaining why I love some things. And I know this was rough, but thank you if anyone watched this at all. I mean it. This has been Emerald. I need to have some sort of some phrase. I need to come up with the saying that I say at the end of every video. Maybe have a nice day, week, month, year, decade, life. See ya.